why your handgun optic isn't zeroed. Now this is a controversial title, that's why we put it on this video. Just like our carbine video that we did a year ago, which was wildly popular in both positive and negative comments. The biggest thing we want you guys to get out of this is that if somebody asks you what's your handgun zeroed at, you don't just throw out a number. You don't say 10, 15, 25. That's a mindset I believe that we need to unsubscribe from very quickly, because it's starting to get us into a lot of trouble, especially if you're an advanced shooter and you start to look into things like, you know, your max point ords, max point blank distances. And that's kind of what we want to show you today in a nutshell. Because if I went up to Jared today, man, what's that Glock right there with the SRO you have on it zeroed at? What would you say?
I would say I have a story printed all the way out to 100 with that gun for multiple types of ammo.
Yeah, so that means he can probably take 15 targets and put it at 100 yards and stand here and shoot through every one of them. That bullet's gonna rise, but it stays in them, max point ord, comes back down to the max point blank, and then all those distances are covered. And that to me is a common sense zero. And that's why we say the reason why your handgun or rifle isn't zeroed isn't because you're using common sense. It's because we're using these models that I've used in the military for so many years, or I go to some instructor course or an RDS course and they say, hey, 0 at 15, 0 at 25, and that's it. And then you never know what your gun does at 50 or 15 or inside of that or 100 meters. It's good to play with your gun, man. Go out and shoot it as far as you can. Now, we of course have the luxury to do that out here in Arizona, where we can come out in the desert and shoot at great distances. But even if you're in an indoor range and you've got 50 feet or 50 meters, you can still play with this just a little bit. So we want to give you guys a model today to not be zeroed, but to have a story on your gun.
And there's a lot of debate or argument or controversy out there on what distance, 10, 15, 25, or beyond. Well, first of all, some people have this limited mindset of, I'm never going to take a shot past 25 or 40 or whatever. I think that's dangerous, because all we have to do is look at evidence, video evidence that we have every day around the world of handguns being employed at those greater distances. But now let's talk about the factors that are going to affect that zero. There's multiple factors: equipment, your attachment method on the gun, your human factors, meaning are you zeroed? And a lot of people don't understand what that means. You can zero an optic mechanically to a gun, but then you put the human factor in it. Are you zeroed? Are you fundamentally zeroed in your fundamental execution of marksmanship so that you can build a good data set to zero off of? That's one of the biggest factors. Another major factor is ammo. Whether you're running 124 ball FMJ training ammo, or you're running 135 staccato match ammo like Travis is going to be running today, or maybe you're running more of a duty round or defensive round like the Spear LE 147. I'm going to be doing an experiment with two different ammos today, same gun, same shooter. So we're going to see how that factor plays out. As you can see, this isn't simple. None of this is simple. Yeah, it's easy for somebody to just go say, oh, I zeroed my gun at 10, I'm good to go. But there's a greater story to tell.
I'd be aware if somebody told you that shooting or zeroing a handgun is simple. Because, well, first thing, I think fundamentally speaking, if I look at the last gunfight I was in, wasn't simple. It was one of the most complex situations of my entire life. And if we consider ourselves professionals here, somebody that's going to go out in society and uphold a higher standard of care for other human life, if you don't have a good zero, you don't have shit, man. So take it seriously, be a professional, and think about all the nuances, all the little things. And that's what we always say, you're always going to chase your zero, man. You're always going to chase your zero. Just like grip, I'm always going to chase my grip to make sure that it's good. So any chance you get to come out to the range and play with these things, these variables, please do that every single time. Every time we go to the range, whether we're just having fun together like today, or whether we're out of instructor development or we're teaching a course, we zero every single day and tell that story, because the bullet doesn't lie, only we do. So other factors we'll talk about here.
So first of all, let's talk about the attachment method on the gun. There's a lot of times we're zeroing guns in classes and we wind up finding that someone's got a loose fastener. So first of all, make sure your attachment method or your fasteners are Loctited and torqued to spec, and then you've got witness marks on them. Those types of things are important. Today we're building data on brand new Glock 19 and 43X Koas from Aimpoint. We just picked these up from Scottsdale Tactical, our partner next door, and we're going to go through this process with brand new optics. So the attachment method and making sure that the equipment is squared away is key. That's the first step. We already talked about the human factors, your execution, which now brings up the question of, if I'm zeroing my gun, do I do it standing or do I do it supported artificially on a bench or in a ransom rest or something like that. That can give you a good mechanical zero of the optic to the gun. But now, if you zero that way, and then you draw the gun unsupported out in the world, that's an issue. So we feel like you need to be zeroed first. You need to make sure that you're fundamentally sound before you start building data sets on your gun.
It's kind of just like reading a map, man. There's a literal true north, which is that direction, right? So we have true north, but then there's a magnetic north. So I kind of like looking at the ransom rest, or like when you see these manufacturers put your barrel into a giant metal block and they fire it and it doesn't move and you get those super tight groups. Well, that barrel's truly able to do that. That's your true north. That's benching it out or proning out a gun, which we still do. We still mess with that. But once I want to know the story on the gun out to 100 meters, which we're going to do today, fundamentally, like you just said, I've got to be on point. And then secondly, I've got to find my magnetic north. That's me, the human behind the gun.
So one of the best answers that we give when someone says, do you do it standing or benched? Ideally, both. Because then you compare you to an isolated gun and you should see very little to no difference there. That's a good indicator of how well you're fundamentally executing marksmanship. So today we're going to start our process at 15. Some people may say, why 15? Well, you've got a 10 option, 15, 25, that's the most known zeros. So we're going to start in the middle, but we're not going to necessarily zero at 15. We're going to start our story at 15. Let the cumulative data play out, and then we'll show you guys how to take that full picture and figure out exactly where we want to get a rock solid zero.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
All right, guys, so we're going back to 15 yards. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is establish a natural point aim. So the easiest way to do that is close your eyes. Close your eyes, draw your gun on where I think my target is. I open my eyes. It's actually not too bad. I'm going to make a mild tweak with my feet. Maybe just close my eyes again, extend my gun back up with a good grip. And that feels pretty straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and now mark my feet and not move my feet the rest of this process. Okay, do not move your feet once you start shooting.
All right, so here at 15, we wanna shoot a good 5 consecutive rounds without interruption. If you see that you pull around, you feel one and felt bad, just shoot another one. You can shoot 6 or 7, but we want a good 5-shot consistent group.
One last thing, red dots. Everybody says turn your red dot down to where you can barely see it. That is the worst thing you can do for the human eye, because the human eye loves contrast. Don't forget that, okay? Don't dim it all the way down like we used to do in the military. So what I'm gonna do is, as I look through my gun, I will adjust it up or down to where the red dot does not overpower, because it's too bright, the black circle, and the black target doesn't overpower that little dim circle where I can barely see it. So equal contrast. Make them both stand out to each other. That's what your eye is gonna really like, and it's gonna help with your accuracy versus hurt it. Okay, so 5 rounds. Here we go at 15.
All right, so there's the 5 rounds of my normal 124 on one target. Now I'm gonna switch to the 147 Spear LE. So this is the first 10, 11 rounds out of this gun, brand new. So now we could say, yeah, this is a 15-yard zero, but is it? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're gonna mark each one of those best we can in black here.
Well, Jared's finishing up on that. If you guys look at all of these, and even on the 124 grain, right, it's that ammo is not the best ammo at all. That's why we're showing it. It's a 124 Norma or something. I think it's made out of turkey, and it's all over the place, especially as you go back. You guys will probably see that. But it's still, a lot of people would say, well, the majority are straight and even right in the middle, even on mine over here with the Staccato 135 grain. You can see that those rounds there, most people at this point would look at all 3 of these targets and say, dude, we're zeroed, let's go. Let's go do a bunch of fun shooting.
Yeah.
But we're not zeroed, we just started. And now we're gonna start confirming and pushing the distance. This is the point, however, though. And I'm gonna do this one more time because I'm looking, if you were to crosshair and dissect this or quarter it, where's the majority of my hits? They're to the left side of that center line. So what happens if I go back to 50, 75, or 100 right now? I might be actually hitting over here. So that's why the story is important, because this is not zeroed until I know it's storied out. So we'll go back one more time. Let me confirm at 15, and then we're gonna start possibly doing the story. All right, so we're back at 15 for our second attempt, because that was the first shots I've shot today. So I wanna make sure, eyes closed again. Okay, I'm a little tweaked here. Set my feet. And I'm gonna do this at every single yard line. All right, that feels good. Okay. 5 more rounds. All right, so let's check those out. My suspicion from earlier is that these rounds are to the left, because you can see the majority of the group in there. So if you see that, even though I have a couple of flyers, I've avoided the losses, I've measured that. Fundamentally speaking, I'm not sure why that one was there, but I do know that was a path of least resistance, and my left hand kind of got a little squirrely, and I was shooting slower than what I normally do. And for my brain, doesn't work that well. So yes, I am rat holing to the left. Now I got to take out this trusty aim point tool, take my gun and optic, and know the optic. So this is your job. You go out and spend this much money on an optic, you should probably know everything about it. Now we do know that this optic does move. One click moves it 0.7 of an inch at 100. Well, we're at 15, so you got to do the math. And that's going to be about 1/10 of an inch per click at 15. Okay, so 1/10 of a click here. This is, I mean, what would you even say? Because it's hard to measure that, right, when you're getting that small.
That's 1/2 inch probably to that, maybe 3/4 of an
So
inch.
probably about 5 or 6 clicks.
I'd go 6 or 7, yeah.
So we're going to go 6, because I'd rather go gross than inch it over and spend all day out here trying to do it. I can always come back just a little bit. All right, so we're going to go 6 clicks in the direction of the arrow to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's good. I'm gonna go back and shoot this one more time, because I need to. You need to do it again, or you?
I'm good, man. Out of the box, this thing's dead on at 15.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, let's go do 15 one more time, and then we'll start the story. So it looks like it's moving over.
Yeah, I think you're good.
So I fired more than I should have, but you can see it start breaking a line, and there's a couple out here. So now, did that just move it too far or just enough? We don't know, and so at this point I can keep playing with that, and if I want to, but to save time here, we're gonna just jump into the story and go back to 25, we're gonna go back to 50, 75, and 100, and we're clearly gonna see if this thing is too far right or too far left, and I can always adjust windage. But the biggest point of this story is elevation, and you guys are gonna see that, so come with us.
So now we're at 25, and one thing as we move back, we may want to keep in mind the intensity of our dot relative to the target, because as you change distance, that perception for your eye can change. So don't be afraid to play with that. We're still only gonna shoot 5 to 7 rounds here, and take your time. Six total on each one.
All right. Okay. So we moved over 6 right, and that moved it quite a bit more than what it should have moved in my theory. So if you're saying 1/10 of an inch, I mean, you're looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, that's 6 right there. But you can see what happened. That group moved from here all the way to about here. That's way more than 6 clicks should move on an optic. And I'm not bashing aim point or anybody else here. All optics do this stuff, okay? It just depends on, you know, again, ammo and stuff like that too. So even if I shrunk that group down, that is the center of the group. That's still almost 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna bring that back over. This is, this is the fly that I couldn't help. I haven't killed anything since this morning. So, but coming back in here, and I'm hoping that wasn't making me drifting right too much. But I'm gonna take 4 out of that adjustment that I just did. So I'm gonna mark this. I went 6 to the right, and now I'm gonna come 4 back to the left and see if that starts to straighten itself out as we continue to move back to 100. Jared, how you doing over there?
I shot 6 because I felt 2 that were low. I think this one was number 3 or 4 out of that shot string. I saw it low left. 15 and 25 are pretty much right on top of each other with this ammo.
Okay, so what you notice Jared doing right now is he is writing the first elevation line into his target. So his 15 is centered, as you can see, since that gun was pretty good out of the box. And then he just shot his 25, and he's saying, based on his group, that his 25 is a little bit slightly lower than the 15, which is starting a trend. Now let's see what that does as we move back.
That's based on my average. I'm just taking the average of the elevation of that group.
Yeah, now I'm curious to see what it does at 50.
So now we're at 50. One of the more important things to remember is always adjust your dot to the correct intensity or contrast of that black circle or whatever your target is. And then here, since we want to build a little bit more statistical data, shoot a minimum of 7 rounds. So we typically say 7 to 10 rounds at this distance.
Good grip, good fundamentals. Hold the dot. Hold the dot throughout the press. And why I say that is I'm consciously holding the dot while I subconsciously pull the trigger. And I'm firing just a few more because it's not about missing, it's about collecting more data. Because if I'm off a little bit, well, if I send more, maybe I can get more of that data in there to give me that good confirmation.
All right, let's go check it out. Staccato ammo looks like it's doing all right.
Yeah, it dropped out considerably, which we might find out with a match type bullet. So 50, 50, there's the 50 over there. And then I'm gonna mark all of these because again, we still have to go back to 75. Oh yeah, right there. So if I went, you can see it's all below center line now to down to here. So if I pick that majority of that group, I'm gonna call this about 50 right here. So there's that 50. 25, you can kind of see these lower 25s down here, even though they were still hovering in the middle. My 15, we know is dead nuts in the center of that target. So let's go ahead and mark that. My 25, I'm gonna call that kind of like what Jared's was doing over there, is right underneath. And look at that 50 dropping out. So now if somebody again asks me, hey, what's your gun zeroed at? I don't know yet, because it's starting to drop out. Now, this is where you might say, well, dude, I'm never gonna take a shot in society on somebody past 50 meters. Like Jared said earlier, don't ever say that, because it's just something you don't do, because you're putting yourself into a box. Just like they told us back in the day, you'll never shoot a sniper rifle past 1,000 meters. And look what guys are doing with them today. We know that shots have been fired beyond this, so just in case I ever had to do it, man, I'm in the middle of a parking lot. That's 200 meters to the big store, it's a brick wall, and there's a guy out there with an AK-47 shooting people, and there's nobody around him. Are you gonna take that shot? You're damn right you are, but you gotta be confident in your fundamentals and more confident in the story the gun's gonna tell, so you can damn sure prevent that liability that you may be including into that scenario. So, typical heavier bullet dropping out, okay, and match, and it's really staying pretty tight for as sloppy as I'm shooting today.
This is exactly why I said we want to shoot more rounds the farther out we go. I knew I had 3 that were way off. I felt them, saw them. There's one there, one here. This was shot number 2 or 3. There's one here. So now if we go find the rest of them, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I thought I should 9, right there.
And this is not uncommon for this ammo that we're running here, this 124 grain Norma. This will be, even if you gave any good shooter this, we start to see this stuff fly out every once in a while.
I know I saw these 2 though. So I know when these broke. This one, maybe it goes into the statistical group, some people say, oh no, you shot that, you've got to keep it in there. No, if I see my shot, if I know my dot was hovering down here when that broke, I know I called that shot. So he doesn't belong in the statistical data set.
And if he only fired 5 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's not enough data. And how many did you fire?
I shot 9.
9 rounds.
9.
So you know the rest of that's in there. We can delete these. We have good data now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna say my 50, even if I throw him in there, my 50's really, the average is about right there. So it's starting to drop a little bit. Now, if we go to the Spear LE 147, I believe I shot 8 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is there one in there? Maybe.
Yeah, right in the middle.
All right, so obviously we've got a good data set there. I'm gonna call the 50 average about right there. So 15
and 25 are kind of the same.
25 are kind of the same. And then my 50's starting to drop out a little bit.
Now let's go see what the 75 does. All right, guys, now we're 75. I'm really gonna focus on my kinesthetic alignment. Eyes closed, good grip, open my eyes, and you'll really start to see your alignment being off. So fix your feet, just like if you're laying in the prone with a rifle. Check that one more time, eyes closed, eyes open. All right, that feels pretty good. Again, we're at 75. Stop with the whole you'll never shoot there. Start with bring the target closer in my mind. All I'm gonna visualize right now is I'm shooting a 1-inch dot at 3 yards. And if you do dot drills, you know what I'm talking about. Prospectively, it's the same shit. So let's hopefully, fundamentally, I can make that happen. All right, I think that's enough. That's more than 10 rounds, so I should have plenty of data down there. They felt pretty good, but we'll see. Jared, your optic's on backwards.
That's Aimpoint's fault. Or Glock, one of them, I don't know.
Fuck, man, I suck.
Well, wait a minute, that's my target. No, I'm just kidding.
You wanna talk about that?
Yeah, so 75, 100, you're starting to push it. And a lot of times we walk up to our target and we think negatively about ourselves. We need to understand that 1, the counter deviation we know is gonna open up as we move back. 2, this is just a data set to study. That's it. You need to walk up to your target as if you're walking up to someone else's target to evaluate it and analyze it. That's all we're doing. Take the emotion out of it. And then if you see results that are less than ideal, that's when you just start saying, okay, why did that happen? And did I see it happen? Could I call my shot? And that's one of the advantages of running a red dot on a gun is you have a better ability to more precisely call your shots, call your misses. So get the emotion out of it.
And that's why I said bring the target closer in your mind, number 1, to help before, and then not worry about what you're gonna do downrange, because if you worry, you suffer twice. So that's the best advice you can give somebody when they walk up, especially in a class. We do it all the time, and guys are like, God, I suck, this sucks, and then it starts creating this infection down the line. It's like, no, you don't. Come up to it like I'm addressing my buddy's target, like Jared said. This is actually really good data. Now, even though I wasn't really feeling as fundamentally sound, and I could tell that dot was moving around, look at the data though. That's the really good part about this. So if you delete this guy that's low and this guy that's low, look at everything else. Where's my 75 line? It is clearly right through there. So now we're starting to see this story opening up. So don't worry so much about your windage, right, left and right. Worry about elevation right now. We can always fix ourselves fundamentally, because I'm gonna be doing a bunch of drills after this to start working on my grip and trigger control and all that stuff. Right now, I'm just trying to gauge what's the elevation of this gun, and that's why more data is always more important. What do you got over here on this Norma?
On the Norma, this was shot number 1. I saw it, that really broke before I wanted it to. This was shot number 11. I could call those two. So we've got 75, 75, 75, 75, here's a 75, 75, 75, 75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's one more somewhere. 12, right there.
So now why are you starting to get in a left effect here when you haven't been left?
So that's where now, that's a great question. As we look at that data and we start asking why, not just going, damn, I'm left. Is it a zero issue or is it a perception issue? Because as we move back, and then we have these to think about, and the overall visual acuity of me, I wear bifocals, but I'm not wearing my corrective lenses now. My dot isn't quite as crisp and clear as it used to be. So I'm not really trying to see the red dot in the center of the black circle. I'm trying to see the red dot in the center of the 12-inch white circle. So this could be a visual perception issue. I don't feel like it's an actual windage zero issue. I feel like this is more eyes, but we're gonna go back to 100 and see if we still see even more of a left trend. Then we take the cumulative data and start trying to figure out those answers.
And eyes are incredibly important as well. You'll notice that we wear very specific sunglasses. There's a couple of brands that we wear. But if you took a laser and put them through these Oakleys I have here, and put it on a wall at like 25 feet, and then move the glasses off of that pupil line, you'll see that laser beam jump on the wall dramatically. So if you have a pair of glasses that jump off of that center point, that means every day you're walking around and your eyes are correcting for that diffraction or refraction of light that is being bent through the, I would say, a non-quality or poor quality lens. So again, zeroing a handgun is simple, right? No, there's so many complexities to it, and that's why we got to take it seriously as professionals.
That was number 9. I've got all 12 rounds accounted for here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So throw him out, saw that, that was me. My 75 goes from there to there, but now let's look for the greatest concentration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of those rounds right there. I'm gonna call this 75 probably about right there.
It's about the same drop as what I'm having on the 135 grain.
So 15, 25 right on top of each other, 50, 75. The 100's probably gonna be right down in here.
And that's the next big question. People might say, well, you guys might be off paper at 100 now. That is possible. That's possible, but at least we know that. But at the same time, we're not gonna go ahead and adjust our dope upward to bring all this on. That's the next process. We'll talk about that when we get back from 100. All right, guys, so we're at 100 now. And checking my alignment and a minimum of 10 rounds. You get lots of data here, lots of data. All right, here we go. All right, so I definitely felt better at 100 than I did 75, and the data is actually higher than I thought it would be, so I think I fire between 12 and 15 rounds. Let me circle these so we know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I mean, that's enough data right there, but if you look at that group at 100, so that's my group at 100 with this gun with 135 grain ammo, which it's gonna be down in this area right about here. Okay, so now, again, if we ask, what am I zeroed at? I'm not gonna say 15. I say I have a story out to 100 that tells me exactly what the bullet wants to do. Because like I said earlier, the bullet doesn't lie, only we do. This is tangible data, okay? And this is why we like to use scientific formulas and models, because we can take and do this all day long. We can repeat the processes. We can change our our variables and control the variables and measure them. And we can take our subjective theories that we come out here with an optic and a zero and trying something new, and then turn it into objective law. And that's why we love that science. And it's not like we've learned our lesson the hard way, right? We don't ever believe science. We interrogate it, we question the shit out of it, and we do it over and over and over until I now know this is what I got. So now that this is what I got, what do I do with that? So for me, I'm actually gonna do a correction here, because you could say I like this and I'll just hold over if I have to shoot somebody at 100. But what if we don't have to hold over? What if I can put 4 clicks into this acro up and move my 15 maybe about right here? That 25 will fall there, and then what'll happen, and I'm gonna so you can see this, if I have 15, 25, 50, 75, and 100, can I see that red marker? And I then shoot. Right now what my gun is doing, it's doing this, okay? It's not even climbing up. So if we put 4 clicks up into this gun, we might bring that max point ord higher to where it does this. So now I can get through all the targets and not drop out on the 75 and 100 as much, if that makes sense to you. So that's the objective. Max point blank is the top point. I'm sorry, max point ord, the ordnance is the top of the flight pattern, and then it starts to drop back down. And the max point blank range is can I get that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy comfortably without holding over with a red dot at distance, just like we would do with a carbine. 50 meter zero, I hold center chest all the way to 300, and I'm a 12 inches low typically at 300. I don't have to adjust anything until I get to 400 and 500. Same thing with a handgun, but I'm gonna go ahead, while Jared's working on his targets here, we're gonna reface, put a brand new target up, and I'm gonna test one more time at 15 after that 4 up correction, see if that 15 moves up, and I'm gonna go right back to 100, reconfirm 100, and see if that 100 climbs up into the circle, because how awesome would it be to have all of my impacts, which you can see that's about a 12-inch zone. If I can move that up and be here, I've got a dead nuts ringer gun out to 100 meters, and that's pretty good. Not only is that confident, that's comfortable. I can take any situation I need at any time and not have to question my story, not my zero. Jared?
That's it, Red. All right, on the Norma here, I had a couple high, a few low on this 100, but that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this group right there, so that's where I'm gonna call my 100.
Same.
All right, as far as the Spear LE, I've already circled my impacts. I had 12 impacts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My first couple, I had a really weak grip. I broke it down, I could feel it, I could see it, built my grip back. I've got the majority of the data right here, but I'm not gonna discount these guys. Whether it was eyes, whether it was a little bit of trigger, I'm still gonna keep those in here. I've got them statistically here, so I'm gonna call my 100 average about right there. So this is a brand new gun, first time we've shot it. I'm not going to make any decisions on the zero yet for this gun. Ideally, I would run this story again, replicate this, and then I'm gonna go from there as far as where I wanna zero it.
All right, I'm gonna jump on 15. All right, last step. Now I'm going to make that adjustment I talked about earlier. I'm gonna reshoot at 15 and then reconfirm at 100 to move that story up. Now, here's the math, and the math is important. And again, like I said earlier, optics don't really necessarily move the way they're supposed to. I noticed my elevation moves okay, and my windage was overcorrecting earlier. So I'm gonna actually put the proper clicks into this, which is gonna be 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And at 100 yards, that would move that group up about 9.8 inches based on the math being perfect. Here it's only 1/10 inch, so so what I just moved for 15 yards is 1.4 inches up. So I was dead nut center on the last time. Now I should be 1.4 inches higher in theory if my adjustments in the optics are turning right. And then if that works out, the 100 should be good. So let's experiment. We're on the lab, not the range. go down and look at that because that looks perfect. So I moved it 14 clicks up, so that elevation is working. So if you think off of center here, I wanted 1.4 inches to the center of that group. That's about right there. So I would call that a new 15. Almost works on this other target we were shooting earlier. Okay. So now let's go back to 100 and see if that group that you saw on the original target moves up a little bit. And again, this is an experiment. It may not. It may stay where it is. And Jared's doing something very similar. He's trying his spear gold dot. He's bringing that up. Same exact scenario. So let's see what happens between those two bullets. All right, so 100 yards, hoping for an elevation shift. We'll see when we get down there.
That was low.
Jared, your gun's like an AK. Thing spits brass all the way over here. All right, so that certainly worked.
Man, look at that.
I mean, and we do know that from what we've experienced with this particular ammo staccato, you know, like your spear, which is also a phenomenal bullet. A lot of us carry that bullet. The staccato we notice is super flat. So if you look at this 100 now, got one out there. Like there's that group. So you guys remember that other target right there next to it. You can see how low that is. And 14 clicks of elevation did not, so this is key, so listen to this very carefully. The 14 clicks did not move my 100 up. It moved my 50 up.
15.
I'm sorry, my 15, thinking carbine. It moved my 15 up, as you can see that line there. Then, again, if we were to go 12-inch circle, 12-inch circle, 12-inch circle, 12-inch circle, and I stack these, let's say it's 15, this is 25, 50, 75, and 100, just to confirm that you guys are all tracking on this. When I shot before, I was center, right in the middle of that 12-inch disc, and went through and started dropping down. What I just did is move that 1.4 inches up here by 14 clicks. And then what happened is that started sending it up. And now we're still almost center. So I moved my max point ord up right here. And you can see that difference of, what do you think that's about? From center to new center. Because here's new center here.
6, 8. That's roughly a 6-inch gain.
So I gained only 6 inches, even though it said it should have been 14 inches, because one click at 100 is almost, it's 3/4 of an inch, 0.7. So it wouldn't be 14, it'd be 9.8.
9.8.
So I'm sorry. So math is hard, but it's important. So it didn't move it a full 10 inches up almost. It moved it about 6 inches up from this point here.
And that was today. There's a lot of variables that affect that. It could be his eyes. To really count on this data, we would want to do it again. That's again, the repeatability aspect of the science approach.
And for time here, we're trying to do this quick. We're giving you guys a 15 and 100, but I would have ran that whole story again, and I guarantee that 25, how far up is that going to be? It's probably going to be in about the same area, isn't it?
Yeah.
50, where's that? It might come up to about right here, but I'm okay hitting somebody right there at 50 versus right here at 50. And then 75 is dropping out back down to 100. Dude, that's a flat ass gun with this Noveske barrel, which I'm really happy with, and staccato ammo matching up. It's a laser beam to 100. I'm super happy with that. So, in closing here, what are we getting out of this? It's not about you zeroing your gun, it's about telling a story on your gun, right?
And a lot of people will say, well, this is too complex, this takes too long. This is not a complicated execution or experiment. And honestly, it doesn't take that long. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, that takes so long. You could do this on your own in 10 or 15 minutes.
Well,
it's not a huge...
The comments on the carbine video, most people said this is too complicated. And when we kind of laughed, we're like, all we just did was shoot 5 to 10 rounds back to 100, came up here, dissected some data. If that's too complex for somebody, I'm sorry, I've got to start saying this, guys. If you call yourself a professional and you think that process right here is too complex, I might want to think about carrying something else in society instead of a gun on your side, to be completely honest with you and professionally honest with you. That's my opinion. Because I know from objective experience, when you don't take this shit seriously, people die. Okay? So, guys, thanks for joining us today on why your handgun optic may not be zeroed. Hopefully this gives you a model. Again, just a model, that's not the Bible. For you to go out and test any different gun, caliber, optic, any way you want to get the story that you need, guys. So again, I'm Travis Haley.
Jared Segraves, don't make assumptions on this stuff. Go find your own answers.
Stay sharp, be safe, guys, and die free.